Hey everyone, hope you're doing well and welcome to a VK Northern video. Today I'm going to be showing you how I perform my flight planning for X-Plane 11 and Microsoft Flight Simulator. This is going to be an IFR flight planning tutorial and therefore it can be used for any IFR situation. However, I will probably at some point show you how I also do my VFR flight planning in a different video. But today, let's go ahead and get through this. I'm going to be using an airliner flight for my example and using a multitude of tools, which I will leave a link for in the description below. First, we're going to go ahead and show you the real world flight plan database. So this is a really nice website that was made, and you do need to register for an account to use it, but it is really worth it. It is user contributed flight plans that have been brought in from different users and contributors, which are all listed together in this one database. And it's really nice and it's really great. You should be able to find something that you want to fly in here. However, if not, I will show you another alternate to real world flight plan database. So let's go ahead and go to search. And I'm going to go ahead and put in the A320 here. And let's just say you wanted to have a specific departure ICAO. So I don't know, let's put NZCH, Christchurch. So you can see here that it does pull up 4 different things that came from NZCH. There's an age band here. This one says it's between 12 and 18 months old. This one says it's more than 18 months old. You can also just remove that and see all the different bands. There's 6 and 12, and then there's less than 4. So these are in the B738, A330, and a bunch of different aircraft types. So you could select one of these and fly these. So I could say I want to fly from Christchurch to Brisbane and use this. It provides you a route, the flight level that was used, the flight time, the ETA of that flight, and any remarks that were left in the dispatcher remarks or the flight plan's remarks. But otherwise, a lot of information, and you could use this to start your flight planning and get a basic idea of what you want to do for a flight. The other option would be to use either the next tool I'm about to show, but there is also another option that, other than the tools, which is just take a departure airport, take an arrival airport, and take a aircraft, put all 3 together, and that's all you need. So you could just go, I want to fly from JFK to Miami. And then you can say, okay, I have 2 different airports, 1 departure, 1 arrival, and I'm going to fly that in a 757-200. So that is a totally valid way of doing it and getting a proper route going. And apologies for that. I should probably mute my phone for this. All right, there we go. So next up is the tool FlightAware. A very useful tool. It's used in the real world, and it's a really great way of just finding routes for yourself to fly. So you can go over here and just search for an airport that you want to fly from, or you can look at the map and see what kind of flights are being flown right now. So there's quite a lot of traffic, probably not pre-COVID levels, but still quite a lot. So let's go ahead and go here at the top to search. So you can search for flights. You can search for a tail number or a registration, an airport, or a city. I'm going to put in Christchurch, NZCH, Christchurch International, and we're going to go ahead and see what kind of flight you want to fly here. So you can see these are all the departures. This is what we want. We want to depart out of Christchurch. There's also arrivals here, so you can say, I need to find somewhere where I can arrive into this airport, and then choose one of these instead. These are en route or scheduled to arrive, and then these are also scheduled departures. So you could select one of these. However, my problem with these expected departures is that they do not provide you a route because they haven't been filed yet. So we're going to go ahead and choose one of these more recent ones. So we have a bunch of different options available. We're going to go ahead and say Air New Zealand 12908. So this arrived 39 minutes ago, and we're going to use this for our example. Now there is another option too, which is a virtual economy mod like FS Economy. So for example, I could go to the FS Economy mod here and go ahead and find myself a A320 flight in MSFS. So if I go here, press A320, MSFS, Oh, look, there's one in Memphis. I really want to fly out of Memphis, or I really want to fly out of Denver. You can choose that, and then you can find the specific type. So there's two actually, 2.3 and 6.4. So this and this are perfectly valid. So once you have your route that you want to fly, aka your airport from, airport to, and your aircraft, now it is actually time to determine what specific routing you're going to be taking. So let's go ahead and move on to step number 2, determining the routing. Alright, now that we're ready to go ahead and determine what specific routing we're going to use, I'm going to go ahead and show you the applications and websites that I use to do that. The first option, I'm going to show you SimBrief, and then I'm going to show you OnlineFlightPlanner. So let's go ahead and start with SimBrief. Now, SimBrief is a free application or website for generating OFPs, which is just a big, massive document with all the information you need for your flight plan, including weight and balance, fuel, waypoints, weather, all the different stuff you would need in a flight plan. It's all available in the SimBrief OFP. Now, you will need a Navigraph account for this, and to have the updated AirAC cycle, you will need to have a Navigraph Nav Data subscription, which costs monthly. So you will need to pay for that in order to have the updated AirAC cycle. However, you are given access to a more out-of-date AirAC, but it is still perfectly serviceable if you're only going to be flying in single-player situations and you're not going to be on multiplayer, like on the VATSIM network. However, this doesn't apply for the MSFS multiplayer because that isn't like the VATSIM network, and there's no stringent rules available on the MSFS multiplayer. So feel free to use these plans there if you have outdated AirAC. However, don't use that on the VATSIM network. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and go to the dispatch system. Quick note, MSFS does provide up-to-date AirACs, and it might not match up with SimBrief, and you might have some little discontinuities or errors. Just try to do your best to adjust if you want. Otherwise, we can use the alternate option available. But let's just get on with this. So you need to fill in your information here. There are great tutorials already on how to use SimBrief. I'm not about to show you one. I'm going to leave a link, or I'm going to put a pop-up in the top right corner to show you a link to a really good tutorial done by the actual developers of SimBrief, which is a much better one. So, I'm going to put in all the information here, which I'm going to pull from here. So it's Air New Zealand 12908 from Christchurch over to Auckland, I believe. Yep, NZAA. Then it's going to select the alternate as NZCH. I'm going to select the A320-200 because this is the A320 and not the A32N or A20N. I'm going to select KG over here. I'm going to select all the different types I need. I'm going to plan step climbs here and then detailed navlog. However, this route does not have any step climbs there. There might have been over here, but it's fine. Climb profile, a descent profile, I'm going to have set as default. Cost index, I'm going to leave it as auto. Then I'm going to set the scheduled flight time to 1 hour 20 minutes because over here it says that it took a total time of 1 hour 18 minutes. Then and make sure that if you hover over these clouds, it actually tells you the weather information like METAR and the TAF for each one of the airports here. So this is your departure, arrival, and alternate. So I can check here. The winds are 200 at 17. So 20, that's perfect, honestly. And then there's 040 at 15, which is close enough to 05. So it should be perfectly fine. Then I'm going to select my passengers and my cargo. I'm going to usually leave those as auto. 0 fuel weight, I'll leave it as auto. The dispatcher name, you can leave that as random. Then your captain name is going to be you. And then your pilot ID is your SimBrief ID, but you can change this if you're in a virtual airline where they assign you a pilot ID. Now, one cool thing about this is that if you're trying to dispatch for a friend, you can put your name here and then put your friend's name here. So let's just say your friend's John Smith. And then you can put custom dispatcher remarks for him when you send this OFP to him. It's really cool. I like it. Or you can just be the dispatcher for a certain virtual airline. I don't know. You can do a lot of things with it. Very cool. but I'm going to leave it as VK Northern. Now over here is the route. Now you can see here that is the Pedum 1 Quebec to Glen Y175 or Yankee 175 to Omcon, and then Yankee 655 to Pocum, then the Quebec 277 to Davie, and then the Dave 6 Bravo. So we're going to go ahead and verify that is the route that they used here. They used the Pedme 1 Quebec to Glen, and then Sha 1 to Davie. So if I can try to put that in here, I will. So it's after Glen, but just before Davie. I don't know if this is, yeah, this is something that's been done specifically for, from ATC. So it's not going to be a kind of fix or airway that's found in the proper routing. So this is probably what the SHA one is. This is probably just a decrease kind of thing instead. So if I analyze this, these two look very similar. If you see that, they look very, very similar. Therefore, that probably is the correct routing. You can always click view more routes and see what routes are available. So this one says that it was previously used by other users. However, you might also find that there are routes that say they are IFPS validated or Eurocontrol validated, which is specifically for Europe. Or you might find routes that are real-world routes from FlightAware. So both are perfectly valid options to use. It's just the previously used by others, you might want to be a bit careful with them. The Route Finder, this is a very useful tool too. You can, if you're going to only be flying on single player, no VATSIM, anything like that, you can use this, enter an altitude, enter if you're going to use the NAT tracks, which are the North Atlantic tracks, estimate your true airspeed, and your routing type. Either it's going to be auto or VOR only. So if you're flying the 727, you can use that. And then that's basically it. We're going to go ahead and generate this. So I'm going to click yes to generate and overwrite my previous OFP. And then you have access to the flight plan. And you can open this up as a PDF. I recommend you keep this open because you're also able to click edit flight and then edit that flight and then generate it again. Very useful information. Anyways, the other option is to use OnlineFlightPlanner. Now this one's actually a really good tool if you want to be able to match the AirX cycle. So for example, if you're using MSFS, you probably have the latest one, though sometimes I find it's a bit delayed with the updates. So what you can do is put in the same thing, NZCH, and then the destination, NZAA, AirX cycle 2112, flight level 300 to flight level 400, that is the altitude range. Going to be using high airways. I'm going to be flying the A320, Airbus A320. Fuel, kg. This country code you don't have to worry about. Use SIDS, yes, that's going to be a standard instrument departure, and you want that. So if I come back here, Pedum 1 Quebec is a SID, and it is a standard instrument departure that you're going to use. And then the Dave 6 Bravo is a STAR, which is a standard terminal arrival. So these two are very important to have, and I'm going to go over how you can verify these and see what they look like on step 3. But for now, let's go ahead and create plan here. So it's going to go ahead and pull up the information. So as you can see, NZCH, SID, Glen. So it doesn't tell you what SID you're supposed to use, but it does say that there is a SID that will lead to Glen. So that's probably going to be the Pedum 1 Quebec. Then it goes Y7175 to Omcon, Y655 to Pocum, Q277 to Davie, and then the STAR, which is basically the same routing we got. It's just we got the SID and STAR inputted from SimBrief, while this one doesn't provide that. Otherwise, it's basically the same thing, and it also gives you some fuel usage as well, which is provided by fuelplanner.com. And then you can, of course, click go to the files and get your PDF or a dot plan. SimBrief has more options available. You can get basically formats for almost all of the different add-on types available. And you can also pre-file on different networks like VATSIM, Iveo, PilotEdge, and PosCon. But otherwise, that's basically it on the route determination. Now we're going to move on to step 3, which is reviewing the charts and the weather. Right, so step 3 is going to be reviewing charts and the weather. So this is a very important step in the IFR planning process, as you want to be able to ensure that you are meeting the restrictions of any SIDs, any stars. You want to make sure you're following the correct taxiways on the airport chart, and just generally being able to see what's going to come up ahead of you. So this is the first application I would recommend for you to use for any charts, which is ChartFox. It is totally free as long as you have a VATSIM account, and a VATSIM account is free to create. You don't have to use the VATSIM network to use ChartFox, but you do need to have a VATSIM account. So go ahead and log in to your VATSIM account once you have one, and then it's going to ask you for an ICAO code. So you can look down here, but basically there's availability for almost all countries here. Red ones are only AIP coverage, while blue is full coverage, but for the most part you should be fine. So we're going to be using New Zealand, and as we can see, New Zealand is covered by ChartFox. Let's go and put in NZCH, which is Christchurch. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to want to pull up the aerodrome charts. We're going to go and wait for it to load. Of course, if it doesn't load, you can also try going direct. See if it loads up. Say I agree. And then you actually get the chart for Christchurch. And I believe these should be up to date. 12 September 19 is when it was effective, but it should be correct. So as you can see, this provides you a general overview. Ground movements is probably going to give you the taxiways and all the other stuff you need. So you can go direct. Yep, there you go. Taxiways are here, and you can use these charts totally for free, which is excellent. Great stuff, and it's honestly good to use. Then you can also do the same for your arrival, but you might want to check the SID first. So the SID we were selected for was runway. If you come down into the paperwork, you'll see NZCH runway 20, so runway 20 are enough SIDs. Just wait for it for a moment, go direct. And then we're going to go ahead and find the departure that we selected, or a SID that we selected. So this is the, if I rotate it, here is Glen, but is this the Pedem 1 Quebec? I believe that was our departure, right? Pedme 1 Quebec. So this is the Pedme 1 Quebec departure. So yes, this is exactly what we needed. So Pedme 1 Quebec follows all the way this way, and then it transitions into all of these different ones. We're going to be confirming that we are going from Pedme 1 Quebec. Once we reach Pedme, we're going to transition onto Glen, which is 354 degrees from Pedme. Now, once you've done that, you're going to also do the same with the arrival. But for the arrival, I'll do it a bit of a different way. I'm going to show you a different application you can use. This one costs money. It is a subscription-based one, but it is called Navigraph Charts. Now, you can buy charts and FMS data subscription both together at the same time and get it discounted. And honestly, Navigraph Charts is worth it. But I'm not here to sell you on Navigraph Charts. I'm just here to show you it's an option. So I'm going to go ahead and go here to flights in the top left, new flight from SimBrief, and then put in Christchurch. Put in the route. So you'll see that Christchurch is down here and that it loaded up the SID, and then it's going to load up the star here. So what I'm going to do is open NZAA. And then I'm going to go ahead and select the star. So we were on the Davy. Go ahead and verify. It is the Davy 6 Bravo. So we're on this one here, Davy 6 Bravo. And then you're going to go ahead and look around here for the Davy 6 Bravo. routing information here, you're going to be crossing Davie at or above 8,000. So Davie is right here located. You're going to be crossing at 8,000 or above. Then you're going to be going down. You're going to come over to this NDB here, follow it outbound here to Gituk, then to Lengu, and then you're probably going to be given ATC vectors. And you can read all that information in the corner here. Then you're going to have the approach, which is 05 right for us. Say you're using the RNAV RNP Yankee or the Zulu, depending on what situation you've got going. So, just see which one is. Usually the easiest option is going to be the ILS. ILSs are very easy to perform in airliners. But you're going to go ahead and figure those out. I'm going to usually pin these charts. So I'm going to have the Daisy 6 Bravo. Then I'm going to have the ILS chart pinned. And I'm going to also have the airport information pinned here. So that's going to give me all my taxiways and information. And then I might also have the parking stands information. So maybe I'm going to be parking at the domestic terminal. So I'm going to pin it here. And I'm going to make sure I know which terminal and parking spot I am going to. Very useful stuff. The only benefit to Navigraph charts over ChartFox is that you're guaranteed to have up-to-date charts, and also it is consistent because all the charts, if I show you the airport info here, all of these charts are made by Jeppesen. Therefore, you're going to have the same format and the same kind of layout for the most part, and it'll be very much consistent and easier to read. That is the main benefit for using something like Navigraph charts. Anyways, once you have that, you're going to want to verify and view your weather information. Now, you can do this through your OFP, which is why I really like this OFP stuff in SimBrief. So if you come down here, actually, if you go to contents, you'll see all the different contents here. So airport weather list. You'll see it gives you your departure weather over here, like the TAF. And then it's also going to give you your destinations TAF and METARs. Then you can also go to the maps down below. You'll see the basic map. Now this is very useful. This is a wind projection map, or it's showing you in barbs, and you can read up online about how to read the barbs, but essentially each one is like 10 knots here, so that's 40, and then that's half, so that's going to be 45 knots, for example. The triangle, I believe, represents 50, and that's going to be 60, 65 knots. So this is very useful, and what you can basically determine with this chart is you're going to be basically up against a crosswind the entire flight. There's also different levels, so that was at flight level 300, and we can go ahead and confirm our flight level is at 330. So we want to look at the chart for 330, or the closest one, which is going to be 340. And yeah, for the most part, crosswind. We're going to be hit by a crosswind the entire flight. So that's really useful information to have on hand. And then, of course, you want to make sure you're briefing the weather, making sure that you have selected the correct runway. You're checking the TAF, especially for the destination here. You want to make sure that there isn't any significant weather that might affect the approach you're using. So if you selected the RNAV and then the minimums get really low and the visibility gets really low, you want to make sure that you have selected an ILS instead. So that's basically the end of step 3. Now comes step 4, which is totally optional, but I think is worth doing at least sometimes within your flight planning. Right, now that we are on to step 4, it is going to be grabbing liveries and scenery. So, for example, if I'm going to be flying from Christchurch over to Auckland, I'm going to first find some Christchurch International scenery for X-Plane 11, because while the default gateway scenery is alright, it's mostly just generic models and stuff that don't look even remotely like the airport for the most part. So I usually like to find some custom third-party scenery that is available. And one of them right here is Christchurch from Convex Scenery. And this is a pretty recent one, and it seems to be a work in progress. However, it looks really well done. The airport has some really nice runway textures here. And it just generally looks pretty good for freeware level. I'm not going to say it's like Mr. X6 level, but it is pretty decent, and it's going to be an upgrade over the default scenery that you get in X-Plane 11. Now you can also search in for the arrival. So just Google in NZAA X-Plane 11. And then you'll find scenery packages that might be available around and about. For example, here is one for Auckland. And while it looks like there's some low resolution stuff going on here, it does look like it's a decent one. You're also going to get the branding and stuff. So like DHL's terminal is going to have DHL stuff plastered all over the place. And it just makes it more lively and realistic. So in my opinion, it's worth going through, getting the libraries, and then getting the actual scenery for that airport. The only downside to getting custom scenery airport is that if there's a new taxiway that's built or they destroy one of the taxiways, it's not going to be reflected in the custom scenery, but it might actually change in the gateway scenery on the next X-Plane update. Then the next step is to look for a livery. So I don't own the Tolus A320, but I do own the Flight Factor A320. So I would look for an A320 livery for the Flight Factor. And here's one available for the Flight Factor A320. ZKOJO. Or generally just pretty decent overall here. Compatible with the IAE mod, pretty good stuff. Otherwise, if I was flying MSFS, I would be looking on flightsim.to. So xplane.org is what I use for the most part on finding scenery and liveries. There's also Threshold, which you can also get scenery and liveries from too. But the other option, and this is for MSFS, is flightsim.to. And this will allow you to get liveries for your fly-by-wire A320, for example. Or you can get scenery as well, like international airports. So you can try your luck and put in like NZAA. And boom, there you go. Auckland Airport Enhancement. There is no confirmed compatibility. However, I saw another one here. This was 8 months ago. And this is Auckland International Airport. And he's done a couple adjustments, I think, and just made the airport better overall. So there is options there. You can also look for Christchurch. So Christchurch also has an airport enhancement. Looks really good. I mean, that's a unique 3D building there. That looks like it's pretty unique too. Yep, United States Antarctic Program. You're not going to see that kind of thing in the default stuff unless there's a hand-built airport there, which there might be. I'm not 100% sure. Because I know MSFS has a lot of handcrafted airports available by default, which is really what makes it good. But enough of that. This is just step 4 of just grabbing liveries and scenery to make your flight more immersive. That's why I call it optional. That's why I say you can just skip this part if you really didn't need it. But in my opinion, it's worth it. It's worth doing, especially since it only just takes a couple minutes to use Google to find this stuff. And then finally, you can move on to step 5, which is launching your simulator of choice, getting in your aircraft of choice, and starting up the flight and getting pre-flight started. Anyways, that's going to conclude this video. I thank you all so much for your support. We recently reached 50 subscribers, and we're now currently at 67 as of the time of recording this video. I'm really grateful for your support, guys, and I'm hoping that these videos are helpful. If you have any suggestions for any kind of video you want to see in the future, tutorial or whatnot, like I'm thinking of maybe doing a series where I do some very simple videos on how to start up certain aircraft. So it's not going to be like dead to the checklist kind of video, but like it'll get you started on learning that aircraft startup sequence kind of thing. So I'm thinking maybe I'll do that. But if you have any suggestions for any kind of videos you want to see, please do let me know. More reviews are coming, more tutorials are coming, and hopefully I'll start getting into doing full flights as well. Anyways, that's going to conclude this video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Take care, and have yourselves a good one.